Are you a supernaturally curious travel enthusiast? Do you prefer your vacations with a couple hundred friends, spending the night in a dark and derelict hotel? Well, then you have come to the right place, because I am the ghost tourist, and this is Alton, Illinois.
Where in the world are you hiding, my dear, my dear? I caught a glimpse of something very weird. A ghost I fear is near me, dear. A ghost has slipped into my world, my world.
Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. We're here for the 27th Annual Haunted America Conference, hosted by local author and historian Troy Taylor.
We knew the conference was coming because all we had to do was look at the weather forecast. And since it was supposed to be like 100 tomorrow, it's like, yep, conference weekend. And if maybe we'll get a thunderstorm and a tornado, and it'll be like every other year. So we'll see.
The conference is a weekend event filled with guest speakers, a very eclectic and fun vendor hall. The man, the myth, the legend. And a number of after-hours activities, including workshops and ghost hunts. There's so much to do and see that this episode will be a 3-parter. All right, here we go into the dark, creepy sub-basement. We're going to show you all the highlights, but first, let's learn a bit about Alton. Okay, yes, this is St. Louis and not Alton, but we're here to catch a ride. So join me, if you dare, as I hop aboard this steamboat and cruise up the Mississippi towards the most haunted small town in America.
The next bridge that we're going to pass beneath today is the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Bridge.
Like 95 degrees out here. Located along the banks of the mighty Mississippi, Alton is just upriver from St. Louis, Missouri. Native American burial mounds and artwork prove that the land was long used by various tribes of the Illinois Confederation, a partially nomadic group. The location that would later become Alton was first spotted by Europeans in 1673 by the French Jesuit missionary Father Jacques Marquette and French-Canadian mapmaker Louis Jollet when they made their famed expedition charting the course of the Mississippi River. Marquette later recorded his first impression of Alton, and it was quite a memorable one. As they rounded a curve, they were startled by something high on a bluff. 2 hideous monsters carved into the limestone and painted red, black, and green. In his words, they were large as a calf, with head and horns like a goat. Their eyes are red, beard like a tiger's, and a face like a man's. Their tails are so long that they pass over their bodies, between their legs, under their bodies, and ending like a fishtail. The monster is known to locals as the Piasa Bird. And today, it's something like a local mascot.
Now, legend has it that it was some sort of Native American creature that was carrying away local villagers and eating them. And so the Native Americans named it the bird that devours men, which is what Piasa means, which
Unfortunately, none of that is true. I can tell you that Piasa in the Illinois language means water panther, not bird that devours men. Monster, wrong kind of monster. What we do know about the Piasa bird is that it was seen painted on the bluff in 1673 by Marquette and Joliet when they came down the Mississippi River, but beyond that, no one knows anything. In 1837, there was a local newspaper publisher who thought it would be fun to create a story.
Its nickname, the Piasa Bird, and its origin story were published in a newspaper by a man named John Russell, who included details about the man-eating bird living in a bone-filled cave. However, when pressured, he later admitted the story was pure fiction. The original monsters were destroyed in 1845, when inmates from the Illinois State Penitentiary began to quarry the local limestone. But if you travel the River Road, you'll find this giant mural painted in 1998. No one knows the true meaning behind the mythological creature carved into stone, and given its destruction almost 200 years ago, no one ever will. But maybe keep your eyes to the skies and look out for giant monster birds, just in case. Hey, are you liking the video? Hit that subscribe button. Once upon a time, this bustling river town was even larger than St. Louis or Chicago. Before railroad was king, commerce was all about the river, and Alton had an excellent landing for all that steamboat traffic, as well as lucrative natural limestone and cement deposits. In its heyday, Alton had prosperous flour mills, sawmills, and gunpowder factories, to name only a few. This high-end rental building was once a cracker factory and is said to be haunted by the spirit of a whistling ghost. In the lead-up to the Civil War, Alton also played a large role in the nation's anti-slavery movement. It was perched directly on the tumultuous borderline between slave and free states, and therefore was one of the leading stations along the Underground Railroad. And a number of local homes and businesses have reported residual hauntings connected to this time period. Though the Lincoln Lofts is said to be haunted by the spirit of a young girl who was struck by a carriage in 1875. It can also be said that one particular event in Alton was a precursor to the Civil War. A long time ago, the location behind me used to be a warehouse belonging to Godfrey Gilman and Company. On the night of November 7th, 1837, a mob of nearly 200 gathered, carrying torches and armed with rifles and pistols. They gathered here for one reason: to put an end to the outspoken Reverend Elijah P. Lovejoy. Lovejoy was an ardent supporter of the abolitionist movement and ran a local newspaper expressing these views. By November 1837, 3 of his printing presses had been destroyed. He was frequently harassed, intimidated, and warned to stop. But Reverend Lovejoy persisted, and on November 7th, he and a group of 12 friends gathered at the warehouse to protect the shipment of his 4th and final printing press. The angry mob arrived after sundown. They quickly began throwing rocks and breaking windows. After a little while, a group went up to the roof and attempted to set it on fire. It was then that Elijah P. Lovejoy came outside to reason with them, and he was shot 5 times and died almost instantly, right on the spot. Afterwards, his friends surrendered. The mob entered the warehouse and tore the press apart, throwing the pieces into the river. Fearful that his body would be desecrated, Lovejoy was buried the next day in a secret grave. It would have been his 35th birthday. The case went to trial, but the mob was acquitted, and Alton gained a bad reputation as a place of lawless violence. However, Lovejoy became known as the first white man martyred to the cause of freedom and was a great inspiration to another man from Illinois. His name was Abraham Lincoln. After the terrible events of November 7th, the warehouse fell out of use, and it wasn't long before the townspeople began to whisper that it was capital H, haunted. Tales spread throughout the region of passers-by witnessing unsettling things near the warehouse. Phantom cries, shouts, and gunshots that would pierce the quiet on still, dark nights. Some even witnessed the figure of a man running from the building, only to stumble and collapse to the ground like an old film on a loop. Elijah Lovejoy's spirit manifested as a residual haunting, replaying his final, desperate moments over and over again. However, his ghost maybe found peace in the end because the warehouse was ultimately torn down and his body was properly laid to rest here in 1865. The monument was erected in 1897 to commemorate the Reverend Elijah P. Lovejoy's sacrifice to the cause of freedom. Many threads of American history are woven through the fabric of Alton, producing a rich tapestry of ghostly lore. So, what led the Haunted America Conference to choose this location specifically? Let's find out.
Alton has just kind of become the perfect place for it, just because of its history. It dates back, 200 years of, the Mississippi River, for starters, and you've got all this water under the city, all this limestone under the city, and then you've got a Civil War prison, and you've got legends, and you've got lore and epidemics and fires and disasters, and all of this stuff just seemed to kind of add up here. We don't ever say it's the most haunted small town in America, because Gettysburg is going to obviously bump it down the list, but it is one of them. I honestly, truly do believe that. When I did the very first one, and that was in 1997, the guy in our local newspaper did a little story on it and then treated it kind of like a joke, like who's going to want to come to this? And then the funny thing was it got picked up on the AP wire, and then I had calls constantly, nonstop, every day from radio stations making fun of the whole thing. But it was great. It was great. So,
but lighthearted fun.
Yeah, it was. It was fun. And so 27 years later, here we are still doing it. And it has become more like a community of friends. Every year we do it, more people come, but we probably have maybe 65% of the people are just people who come every year.
Yeah. And
so they just keep coming back. We think of it as kind of like, a fun paranormal summer camp.
it's pretty fun.
I'm Dan.
Hi.
So we're an event company.
Yeah.
So we actually hold events around the United States.
Oh,
People
cool.
come and they get to do we show them their hotspots and how to use all the equipment, and then we put our equipment out, and they get to go out and be their own investigator and stuff.
Oh.
So this is kind of like a side thing to do. We make a lot of things, like everything is crocheted, our candles, our cups are all made and stuff, and then we have a podcast on Tuesdays.
This is my first time at this conference and any paranormal conference, so I didn't know how this was going to go, but yeah, I'm Doug. I am Art Guy Designs, Oddities. I make weird baby doll mugs and tiki mugs, horror-themed tiki mugs, or just creepy ones.
Can't steal it.
the Haunted America Conference is headquartered here at the Lewis and Clark Community College, which was formerly the Monticello Seminary, a women's school founded in 1838. Back then, most schools for women focused on increasing a lady's potential for a good marriage. But Monticello provided women with a higher education in subjects like mathematics, history, and philosophy, quite a rarity for its time. The college is rumored to be haunted by its former headmistress, Harriet Haskell, and contrary to the usual tale, she was actually quite a beloved teacher who ran the seminary for over 40 years. Through the tumultuous Reconstruction after the Civil War, a Great Fire in 1888, all the way until her death in 1907. The Monticello Seminary became the Lewis and Clark Community College in 1971, and while many things have changed through the years, one remains: Miss Haskell's ever-watching presence. Her favorite haunt is the library, which was once the chapel. She's been spotted over the years by both staff and students, often tapping them on the shoulder, then disappearing and leaving behind nothing but the scent of lilac perfume. And, as legend has it, on the day Monticello officially became Lewis and Clark, Miss Haskell expressed her objection by uprooting one of the oldest trees on campus. By all accounts, it was a sunny, cloudless day, thus cementing her story to legend.
Well, if you're coming to Alton and you have an interest in history, especially if you have an interest in ghost stories and just weird stuff, we've got all that in Alton. I always tend to send people out to see the Robert Wadlow statue because he was the tallest man who ever lived, and he was an Alton native, and he died in 1940s, buried here in Alton, grew up here, spent his whole life here, just wanting to be an everyday guy. But when you're 5 years old and you're almost 6 feet tall, that's not going to happen. And so he joined up with the Ringling Circus and went on tour for years, and unfortunately died when he was only 22. But he is still holds the record, 8 feet, 11 and a half inches. And there is a life-size statue of him. There's a couple in town, but there's a great one in a little park. I always tell people you got to see that.
For more fascinating historical tidbits and ghostly tales about Alton, I suggest you read Troy's book. Or, if the circus is up your alley, he presented a sneak preview of his newest book, The Devil's Carnival, about the history and hauntings associated with America's most deadly circus fire.
And I have now found my longest subtitle ever. I worked hard on that, just so you know. All right, guys, thanks a lot.
The conference included an entire weekend full of guest speakers spanning topics from how to utilize free historical archives, a highlight on the pioneering women in paranormal research, various ghost hunting anecdotes, as well as a fun talk about the sexiest horror icon, the vampire. We're here at Fast Eddie's Bon Air, a local hotspot and concert venue, and we're fueling up for some late-night ghost hunting. Fun atmosphere, but a pretty limited menu. Come here for a cold beer, stay for the peel and eat shrimp. For a more centrally located option, I also suggest Morrison's Irish Pub, only a stone's throw away from the site where Elijah Lovejoy was murdered, and it has a haunted reputation all its own. For that story and other bonus content, please consider becoming a Patreon supporter. For only $3 a month, you can get access to travel itineraries, extended stories, and support the channel's growth. The conference also includes a variety of after-hours events, as I mentioned, ghost hunting. I'm signed up for 2 hunts, and I'll be releasing these as their own videos. But here is a quick peek. Perched atop the highest lookout point in Alton, you'll find the McPike Mansion, considered to be the most paranormally active home in the entire state. It's been featured on countless TV shows, web series, and podcasts, and you can see why. It's the quintessential haunted house. We ran into quite a few surprises while investigating the McPike Mansion, including meeting a local NFL player.
Mike Ford, Houston Texans, from Alton, Illinois. This is my first time actually being on the property. You know, nobody ever really stopped here. This is my first time seeing a sign and saying that you could stop here. So we were like, why not? And we saw you guys here. So it gave us some courage to walk up.
So you avoided the place for 28 years?
Yep, I haven't been here. Kind of wish I could go in, but nah.
Well, Mike Ford's not going inside, but we will. And you can say that I saved the best for last, because this is quite possibly the most haunted building in the most haunted small town in America. The Mineral Springs Hotel was founded in 1914 and closed to the public in 1971. Ghosts abound at the Mineral Springs Hotel, so wish me luck. They say Mark Twain once called Alton a dismal little river town, but I'd have to say that I disagree. I found it to be anything but. It was charming, quirky, macabre, rich in history, and full of ghosts, which is my kind of town. Thanks for watching. I'm the Ghost Tourist. I'll see you next time.
A ghost is near, I fear, my dear. A ghost has slipped into my